Christmas isn't a place for losers, Amanda said, her voice flat but deliberate, like each word had been sharpened just for me. She leaned against the frame of my parents' front door, arms crossed over her chest. Her nails perfectly painted a deep red that matched the lipstick smeared across her wine glass earlier. Her breath came out in little clouds visible in the December cold. I remember thinking how even her breath looked smug. I stood there, boots sinking into a thin crust of snow, my arms weighed down by 2 overstuffed gift bags. I'd picked every item inside with care. The hardcover novel for Dad I'd hunted weeks for, the cashmere scarf for Mom, Lego sets for her boys, a bottle of Tom's favorite whiskey. All wrapped, all labeled in neat cursive handwriting. My hands ached from carrying them up the icy driveway, but suddenly the bags felt like lead. For a second I thought I'd misheard her. My lips parted, but no words came. The only sound was the faint carol spilling from the living room. Bing Crosby singing about a white Christmas, warm and cheerful, in cruel contrast to the frost forming in my chest. Amanda, I started. My voice was a whisper, more to myself than her. She tilted her head, lips curling into a half-smile that wasn't kind. Don't look so shocked. It's just, this year, it's better if you don't come inside. Less drama that way. Drama? My throat tightened. I brought gifts. For everyone. She glanced at the bags in my hands as if they were trash I'd dragged up from the curb. It's not about that. You've been slacking. People notice. Honestly, Chloe, it's embarrassing. My breath caught. I wanted to argue, to throw the bags at her feet and demand she explain what I'd done wrong. But the words tangled in my throat. Behind her, I caught a glimpse of warm light. Of Mom moving in the kitchen, of Dad's silhouette by the tree. They didn't come to the door. They let her be the messenger. The cold wind cut through my coat, and I realized I hadn't blinked in too long. My eyes stung, but I wouldn't let her see me cry. So I smiled, small, steady. The kind of smile you give when someone tries to push you over and you decide you'd rather stand still than stumble. Fine, I said. My voice came out calm, steadier than I felt. If I'm not welcome, I won't come in. Her smirk faltered for just a second. Maybe she'd expected me to beg, to plead for entry like some desperate child. But I turned, my boots crunching against the frozen driveway. By the time I slid into my car and dropped the bags onto the passenger seat, my hands were trembling so hard I had to grip the wheel to hide it. The gift tags peeked out from the bags. To Dad, to Mom, to Aiden, to Jake, all of them waiting for a Christmas I wasn't allowed to join. As I sat there in the silence of my car, Amanda's words echoed, each one colder than the air outside. No place for losers. And in that moment, I decided, if I wasn't welcome at Christmas, then neither was my money. I lasted exactly one night. I told myself to let it go, to swallow Amanda's words and bury them under the usual excuses. She's stressed. It's the holidays, she didn't mean it. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw that smirk at the doorway. I heard her voice again, sharp and deliberate. Christmas isn't a place for losers. By morning, the sting had turned into something else. Not sadness, not confusion, something harder. Anger that hummed under my skin like electricity. So I drove back. The driveway was crowded with cars, their windshields frosted in delicate patterns. Through the front window, I saw the tree glowing, tinsel draped carelessly, kids' laughter spilling out. The kind of scene you'd find on a Christmas card. Only this card didn't have a place for me. This time I didn't knock. I pushed the door open and stepped inside, the warmth of the house hitting me like a wall. Cinnamon, pine, roast turkey. All of it familiar. All of it suddenly foreign. Amanda was sprawled across the living room couch, legs tucked under a plush throw blanket. She didn't even flinch when she saw me. Instead, she raised an eyebrow, phone still in her hand. "Well," she drawled, "look who decided to show up anyway." Mom stood in the kitchen doorway, wiping her hands on a towel. She gave me a tight smile, the kind that was supposed to be reassuring but only felt apologetic. Dad's back was turned as he fiddled with something at the counter. Not one of them moved toward me. I set my jaw. "What's going on?" My voice carried more force than I expected. "Why am I not welcome at Christmas? What exactly did I do?" Amanda leaned forward, phone abandoned on the cushion. Her expression was cool, almost amused. "You really don't get it, do you?" "Get what?" "That you've been slacking. The kids barely got anything from you this year. People notice, Chloe, they talk. I blinked. Barely. I've spent hundreds. There's more in my car right now than anyone else is getting. She scoffed. Last year you did more. This year it's like you don't care. My chest burned. I glanced toward Mom, hoping for some kind of support. She pressed her lips together, then looked down at the floor. Dad didn't even turn around. Their silence was louder than Amanda's accusations. So that's it? I asked, my voice shaking now. I'm good enough to bankroll birthdays, sports fees, emergencies, but not good enough to sit at the table because I didn't spend enough this year? Amanda shrugged, casual, cruel. If you can't keep up, don't drag the rest of us down with you. The room blurred for a moment, rage and humiliation mixing until I couldn't tell one from the other. I wanted to scream, to throw every truth I'd swallowed for years right into her smug face. But instead I swallowed hard, forcing the words back down. I turned toward the door, my boots heavy against the hardwood. At the threshold, I looked back once, hoping maybe Dad would stop me, or Mom would speak up. But the silence stayed. So I walked out, each step colder than the snow crunching beneath my feet. Their laughter carried on behind me, muffled through the closed door. As if I'd never been there at all. The silence came first, no texts, no calls, no passive-aggressive Facebook tags from Mom, no group chat updates from Amanda. At first it felt like I was being smothered. Every evening when I set my phone on the counter, I half expected it to light up with Dad's name, or Amanda demanding something disguised as a favor, but it didn't. The phone stayed dark, and the quiet stretched on. The first few days it hurt. I kept catching myself reaching for the phone anyway, my thumb hovering over Dad's number like muscle memory. I'd picture him answering in his usual gruff tone, asking how my car was holding up or if work was busy. But then I'd remember the way he'd scrubbed that plate, refusing to look at me, and my stomach would twist. So I stopped reaching, and in the stillness, something inside me shifted. The silence wasn't punishment. It was a test. Amanda was waiting for me to fold, to crawl back with an apology I didn't owe, arms full of gifts and my credit card at the ready. That was her game. She thrived on watching me prove my worth over and over. This time I didn't play. No Venmo transfer slipped into her account at midnight. No quick just this once bailouts when her utility bill came up short. No mysterious Amazon packages showing up at their door, filled with things for the boys. At first it felt unnatural. I'd see something the kids might like, a science kit, a new video game, and my instinct was to buy it, to keep the peace, to stay useful. But then I'd remember Amanda's smirk in the doorway, her voice cutting through the cold. Christmas isn't a place for losers, and I'd put the item back on the shelf. Weeks passed. The silence settled deeper, but instead of suffocating me, it started to feel lighter, like air after a storm. For the first time in years, I wasn't anxiously waiting for the next demand. I wasn't budgeting around Amanda's emergencies. I was living on my own terms, until the knock came. It was late, nearly midnight, when the pounding rattled my front door. At first I thought it was the wind, but then it came again, harder this time. Reluctantly, I pulled on a sweater and opened it. Amanda stood there, cheeks flushed from the cold, hair wind-blown. Tom hovered behind her, jaw tight, hands shoved into his coat pockets. "You've made your point," Amanda snapped as soon as I opened the door. Her voice was sharp, but her eyes darted nervously, almost desperate. "But this is ridiculous. The kids barely have what they need. Tom's been doing everything he can." I laughed. A bitter, humorless sound. "Everything he can? That's funny. Last I heard, he was between opportunities and chasing some big idea." Tom stiffened, but he didn't argue. He never did when the truth cut too close. Amanda pushed past me into the living room, shedding her coat like she owned the place. "You've always helped before. Now suddenly you think you're too good for your own family." "No," I said quietly, steady. "I've just realized I'm done being treated like a bank." Her nostrils flared. "You're punishing the kids." That landed like a punch. My chest tightened, guilt clawing up before I shoved it back down. I met her glare head on. "The kids are your responsibility, Amanda, not mine." For the first time, she had no comeback. She stood frozen, her lips parting, closing again. Tom muttered something under his breath, and then they both stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. I stood there in the quiet, heart pounding, hands trembling, but for once, not from fear, from certainty. This wasn't the end of it. I knew Amanda. She didn't lose easily, and deep down I knew this was only the beginning. The call came 2 days later. I almost didn't answer. The number on my screen was unfamiliar, some local area code I didn't recognize. Normally I'd let it roll to voicemail. I'd had enough drama to last me a lifetime. But something in my gut told me to swipe. "Hello, is this Chloe Harper?" The voice was male, calm, professional. "Yes," I said slowly. "Who's calling?" "My name is Daniel Ross. I'm an attorney here in Boston. I represent a client who has concerns about certain financial matters involving your family. Do you have a moment to discuss?" The words hit me like ice water down my spine. Financial matters. For a moment I thought Amanda had finally snapped and decided to sue me for not funding her life anymore. "What kind of financial matters?" My voice was sharper than I intended. "I can't go into detail over the phone," he replied evenly. "But it involves monetary contributions you've made to your sister Amanda and her husband Tom. Specifically, how those contributions were used." I gripped the edge of the counter, my chest tight. "And who exactly is your client?"
He hesitated just long enough for my pulse to spike.
"Amanda," he said finally. For a second I thought I misheard. Amanda? The same woman who'd called me a loser on Christmas Eve? The same woman who'd barged into my house demanding I open my wallet again? "Yes," Daniel confirmed when I didn't respond. "She came to me with concerns about Tom's handling of the money. She recently discovered evidence that he's been diverting funds into an account she didn't know existed." The room tilted slightly. I leaned against the counter for balance. "What do you mean?" "Diverting?" Daniel's voice was steady, deliberate. "Amanda provided me with copies of a bank statement she found in Tom's desk. Transfers that align with the exact times you provided assistance, for rent, for school expenses, for Christmas, were rerouted to a private account. From there, the funds were spent on unrelated expenditures." I swallowed hard. "Unrelated? Like what?" "Online trading platforms, high-end restaurants, weekend hotel stays, electronics. None of it appears to have supported the household." A sharp, humorless laugh escaped me. "So while I was paying their rent, while I was buying laptops for the kids, while Amanda had me wiring money for so-called emergencies, Tom was living it up behind her back?" "That's what the records suggest," Daniel said. I closed my eyes. For years I'd told myself I was keeping their family afloat, that I was helping, that without me the kids would go without. But in reality, I'd been feeding Tom's personal slush fund, financing his delusions while Amanda played the unwitting accomplice. "And Amanda just found this out?" I asked finally. "She suspected for a while," Daniel said, "but she only confirmed it when she came across the account statement." I stood there, the phone pressed to my ear, staring blankly at the wall. My anger should have been volcanic. My humiliation should have burned me alive. Instead, all I felt was relief. Relief that I wasn't crazy. Relief that the weight I'd been carrying wasn't mine to bear. Relief that my decision to cut them off hadn't been selfish. It had been necessary. "What does Amanda plan to do?" I asked. Daniel's tone shifted slightly, softer. "She's considering her options. Separation is on the table. For now, she wanted you to be informed and protected." I let out a long, shaky breath. Protected. That was a new one. For once, Amanda wasn't calling to demand something. She was warning me. When I hung up, I sat in silence, the folder of truth burning in my hands. For years, I had believed Amanda and Tom's struggles were my burden to carry. But now, staring at the evidence, I realized the truth was simpler and far darker. They hadn't needed me. Tom had, and he'd played us both. The phone rang again 2 nights later. This time it was Amanda. For a long moment, I just stared at the screen. My instinct was to let it ring out, to protect the fragile peace I'd built in her silence. But something, maybe the exhaustion in her name glowing across the glass, what made me swipe. "Did Tom call you?" she asked, her voice tight, cautious. "Yeah," I said. He wasn't exactly thrilled. A pause, then a weary sigh. "I confronted him about the account. About the money. He admitted some of it, but he's still trying to downplay everything like it's no big deal." I leaned against the counter, staring at the coffee mug in my hand. "Amanda, it's thousands of dollars. Money you thought was going to the kids. He was living a second life while you were begging me for rent." "I know," she whispered. For the first time in years, her voice didn't sound sharp or smug or demanding. It sounded broken. "I've been making excuses for him for so long, Chloe. I didn't want to see it. But after Christmas, after what he said to you, after what I let him say to you, her voice cracked. The kids deserve better than this. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to lash out, to remind her how she'd stood by while I was humiliated, how she'd let my parents shrink into silence rather than defend me. But another part, the bigger part, knew that right now Amanda didn't need a lecture. She needed a lifeline. "What are you going to do?" I asked softly. "I don't know yet," she admitted. "I've been talking to Daniel about options. Separation, maybe more. Her breath hitched. "I need to figure out how to stand on my own 2 feet." The silence stretched between us, fragile but honest. Finally I said, "Whatever you decide, I'll back you. But you need to understand something. I can't go back to being your safety net. That part of us is over." "I'm not asking you to," Amanda said quickly. I'm asking you not to give up on me completely." We talked for 15 more minutes, mostly small talk that felt awkward, tentative, like trying to tape together something cracked down the middle. But when we hung up, I realized something had shifted. This wasn't Amanda the accuser. This wasn't Amanda the taker. This was Amanda stripped raw, staring at the wreckage of her life and realizing she couldn't rebuild it the old way. Weeks later, she proved it. A Saturday morning, a coffee shop halfway between our places. Amanda arrived looking tired but lighter, her hair pulled back, no makeup, a hint of resolve in her eyes. "I told him I want space," she said, wrapping her hands around her cup. "He didn't take it well. But I can't pretend anymore." I studied her face. No smugness, no defiance, just exhaustion, and under it a flicker of strength. "You look lighter," I told her. She gave me a small, real smile. "I feel lighter." And in that moment I realized the shift wasn't just hers. It was mine too. Because for the first time in years, I didn't see Amanda as my burden. I saw her as my sister.